Hello and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. So today's topic is training, and we're going to discuss free weights versus machines. So this topic was actually requested by someone on our YouTube channel. So we do try our best to post all of the podcasts in a video format on YouTube. Sometimes it doesn't always work because I store all the data on my cell phone, and sometimes I haven't uploaded the past videos enough to have room for new videos. So, yes, that's hilarious that I have to admit that, but that is the case. And funny enough, in one of our, just like about a week ago, we had podcast number 500, we talked about how to develop like consistency. And that was actually a day where the phone was too full to record the visual kind of medium for YouTube. So I was inconsistent on that aspect while I was making a podcast about consistency. So life has an amazing, amazing sense of humor, and I absolutely love it. Thank you for the people who do watch the videos on YouTube, and thank you for the comment and the suggestion for today's podcast. So, if we're looking at free weights versus machines, in like gyms, and at home, you can have kind of both types of resources. So free weights will be a weight that can move freely. Not to be a smartass, it's just that's kind of a way of defining it. And that would be like dumbbells, kettlebells, barbells, yourself, even people who use TRX bands. That would technically be a free weight because you're moving yourself on these handles that move quite a bit. And just really in general, that would be the way to define it, is when something can move freely, it's not guided by anything but you. So you are the guide, so therefore it's a free weight. Machines are where you have to be, where things are guided for you. So that would be like leg press machine, chest press machine, back row machine, where we have handles and like there's a weight stack, and you have to kind of move the thing around according to the guidelines of that machine or the pathway of that machine. Now, there's a lot of gray areas to this. So, and by weight stack, I also mean like you can do plate loaded machines as well. So the person who requested this specifically named hammer strength machines, which are plate loaded machines. So it's a chest press machine where the pathway is guided, but you have to kind of add plates yourself. So that would still be a machine. Now, there are machines that kind of are kind of like open to movement, but they still have some kind of guiding aspect to them. So free motion is an example of that, or like cable machines. Let's just use that. So a cable machine. So if I'm taking like a cable stack, like from the bottom of the cable stack, and I try to do like a lateral raise, well, I can move that wherever I want. So I'm in a sense having to guide it. However, it's always being pulled back to where the pulley of the machine is from. So it is guided in the sense that it always has a return point or a fixed kind of, you could call it as like a gravity. So when we move dumbbells, like in barbells and kettlebells, the gravity, making the weight have weight, so making the device have weight, gravity straight up and down. When you use cables, typically you're going to anchor that somewhere other than right below you. So it changes where kind of the pull is, so where gravity is pulling it in a sense. So it's guided in a sense that it always has this focal point that it'll always pull back to, but it's self-guided in the sense that I can kind of move a cable handle anywhere I want. So there are some kind of mixes in between just free weights and machines and kind of how you define one versus the other. So let's just go with the general kind of concept of a free weight being dumbbell, barbell, kettlebell, something like that. And a machine being something that's guided for you, meaning you don't have to balance it. It's already balanced, you just have to move it. So some pros and cons of each of those. So this isn't an exhaustive list, it's just something I figured I could whip up pretty quick just to give some ideas. So the pros of free weights, where you have to guide it, is it involves more muscles. So any exercise with a free weight versus a machine is going to involve more muscles because you have to stabilize and brace the weight as well as move it. So you have to have stabilizing muscles and you have to have moving muscles. So there's more involved muscular-wise with a free weight. That also helps to contribute to improving coordination and balance. And it allows for better ergonomics, which means you can find a pathway for a movement that best fits your body type. So if you have long upper arms versus short upper arms, a chest press machine may feel better or less targeting into your chest muscles. So sometimes people don't like the way a machine feels because it doesn't match their body type. So if they have long or short limbs and that machine is made for the opposing limb length, then it's not going to feel very comfortable for them. So leg presses are actually a really good example of this. So some companies' leg presses are awful, and I think somebody should have got fired for making them. I have no clue who allowed that to be made. And they'll feel like they're going to blow up your lower back and your knees. And then other leg presses feel amazing in the sense that they can have some type of lumbar support. They can have the proper foot angle for the plate, so where you don't feel your back and your knees, you actually just feel the muscles working. So free weights allows you to kind of get past that, the limitation of the machine. You can actually just move however you should move for you, okay? So that allows better ergonomics. And then the other part that's kind of dorky, but it is true because I do a lot of physical therapy work with people, is free weights is better applicable to everyday life movements. So activities of everyday living. But it allows you to move. So if I can pick up and say deadlift and do kettlebell swings, then I can pick up something in the yard and move it around. So if I can overhead press dumbbells, I can overhead press a box up onto a tall shelf. So free weights are more applicable to how we use our body in everyday life. So that's very important for people with their activities of everyday life is challenging for them, and or kind of physical therapy type stuff. So those are some big pros, benefits of free weights. Some negatives of free weights is the lack of stability ability. Okay? The lack of the ability to make things stable limits the results for strength and muscle manipulation. So what I mean by that is if I'm trying to do dumbbell presses to work on my chest strength, but I can barely kind of stabilize and support the dumbbells to the point where I'm afraid I'm going to drop one on my face, then I'm not going to maximally stress my chest because my stabilizing muscles are limited. So if the strength of my stabilizers is weaker than the strength of the main muscle I want to target, then I'll never fully target that main muscle because the stabilizers will give out first. Same thing is true for muscular manipulation. So if I'm trying to build muscle, if I'm trying to create muscle damage, then if I were to eat in excess, it would make me a bigger muscle. If I eat in control, it would make kind of firm, tight kind of physique. So our growth of a muscle determines by our food, not our training style. I have the belief, and it's been true for the 18 years I've been training people, that even if you don't want bigger muscles, you should still train to where you damage the muscles as if you were a bodybuilder. You would then just control your eating, and it allows the body to repair and fix the muscle, which helps burn a lot of calories, helps keep you very lean. But since it doesn't have excess of calories, it just repairs the muscle to the size it is, not adding more tissue to it. So people who want a lean physique and they want to quote unquote tone up, they end up always lifting with bullshit weights at really high reps. They never really cause muscle damage, and they wonder why they never really have a big effect. You have to train to create muscle damage if you want the muscles to be tight and toned, and it'll actually help you be leaner because your body has to put more work into recovering the muscles because they're so beat up. So don't use weight training as cardio and just use a bunch of light weight for a billion reps. That's stupid. So you have to get some damage into the tissue. So you have to almost train like a bodybuilder would train. You're just not going to eat like a bodybuilder. Okay? So the same thing is true then in limitations, where if I'm trying to push a target muscle deep into muscular failure, but I can't even stabilize it, then the stabilizers get targeted first, and then the main muscle never gets fully developed. So the lack of the ability to stabilize a movement, which is needed for free weights, you have to stabilize the movement. But if your stabilizers are weaker than your main muscle, you're never going to fully target and kind of get the most out of that main muscle. Then the other big kind of weakness or kind of negative to free weights is it's a greater risk of injury than machines. So working with certain populations, like for example, I used to work with special needs uh, children, and they had different movement limitations due to different kind of conditions. So I worked with kids with like cerebral palsy and a bunch of other type of conditions, and their movement quality patterns were unpredictable and shaky. So putting them on machines was an absolute must. There was no way we're going to give somebody with cerebral palsy like dumbbells and try to do a chest press, because they're going to not a fault of theirs, just due to the condition. They're most likely going to end up hurting themselves. So if somebody has stability issues, whether it's just limited strength or otherwise, it puts them at a great risk of injury if they can't stabilize the weight and they end up kind of dropping it on themselves. Okay, so machines. The pros of machines is the guided pathway allows for better overload of the target muscle. So just like we said, one of the negatives of free weights was if you can't stabilize it, you're never going to fully target the muscle. The benefit of the machine is you take away the stabilization factor. So since it's a guided pathway, you don't have to stabilize it. You can just kind of hammer that big target muscle as deep into stress as you want. So it really is awesome for that. Also, the guided pathway allows for a lower risk of injury since you don't have to stabilize it. So often people will get less injured when they use machines compared to free weights. Now, there are negatives to machines. So the guided pathway does reduce involvement of other muscles, so you're never going to get better at stabilizing things if your stabilizers never work. So if you only ever use machines, you can target the big muscles really well, but your stabilizers are always going to be weak, and that can actually lead to injury risk in everyday life. So that's one of the other negatives of machines. It's not applicable to activities of everyday living. So if I use a machine to get strong legs, that doesn't necessarily mean I can pick up something in my yard, because my body is going to need more than just my legs to do that. It needs the muscles all around the hips, the knees, the ankles. It needs stabilization, needs balance, needs coordination, and machines don't build that. And then also, like we said, basically just I said it right there, is machines limit our development of coordination and balance. So, if you noticed, the pros of free weights counter the negatives of machines, and the pros of machines counter the negatives of free weights. So it makes sense that if you combine the two, you get a pretty good combination. So when we look at what should you use in your training, should you use free weights or machines, the answer is, why the hell do you have the word or in there? So there's absolutely no need to have it be or. You can do both. So if I had to pick one or the other, I'm always going to pick free weights because it's more applicable to everyday life, and it has a greater long-term potential for overall benefits. However, there's no need to pick one or the other. So an exception would be if somebody's like, okay, well, I have $1,000 and I want to have a home gym. Should I spend the $1,000 on a machine or on free weights? Obviously, free weights. Well, actually, take back the word obviously. It's probably not obvious, but you should definitely spend the money on free weights before you buy a machine for your home. So free weights is going to help you just to have more benefits overall. But the whole point of this is that you should not have kind of one or the other. You should have both. So what I figured I'd do is break down the three main goals that people have towards like exercise and fitness and whatnot: is fat loss, muscle building, and strength. Now there are a billion more goals. So if you want, like, say, athleticism, that's technically going to be strength, muscle building, and fat loss. You're going to want all three of those, right? So there's some other things in there too. But if we were in those goals, those three main goals, how would we use free weights or machines in our workouts? So in general, every workout should have some type of movement preparation work, to where you're not just walking into the gym or walking into your home gym and you're going to do some big heavy lift right away and just annoy the shit out of your joints. So you have to do something that actually warms up the joints and gets some blood flowing. It actually improves like hormonal production of adrenaline and endorphins, so you have good aggression and kind of focus. And it also helps with like natural painkillers. So endorphins kind of just make things hurt less. And adrenaline, other than aggression, it actually helps you narrow your focus. So if you find yourself kind of daydreaming and not paying attention and pissing around on your phone, if you do a warm-up properly and it gets your adrenaline up, you'll notice your natural focus will actually improve. So we have done a podcast already about the benefits and kind of importance of warm-ups. So just to kind of like let you know what number that is, I'm looking it up right now. It's number 407, titled The Importance and Benefits of Warm-Ups. So that way you'll know why we start our workouts with that, okay? So our workouts are started with some kind of movement prep. And so it'll be a warm-up or something you're doing that kind of contributes to the type of movement that you want to do for that day. So if I'm going to do squats, I want to do something that warms up my hips, my knees, ankles, stuff like that. If I'm going to do overhead workout, or I want to warm up something that works my shoulders. So pretty much myself and my clients, we always do some type of warm-up that targets the shoulders, hips, and core. So that way we're ready for full body, anything we want to do. So, and then also what it helps is those are typically weak areas of the body. So if you target them every day in your movement prep and warm up, they'll get stronger over time and you'll be more resilient, okay, and better health. So every workout should start with movement prep. Then there should be some kind of strength aspect, then muscle manipulation, and then endurance activities. So if we look at our goals of fat loss, you should pretty much use body weight and free weight exercises for your movement prep. So very rarely do I use machines for movement prep because I'm trying to get the person to activate a lot of muscles and prepare for the workout. And like we said, machines kind of limit which muscles are involved. So they actually target and individualize muscles, not like allow you to use multiple muscles. So using body weight and free weights for your movement prep is actually the best thing to do for fat loss, muscle building, and strength goals. Then for the strength aspect, okay, after you're warmed up and you're ready to go, and you want to do something heavy. And by the way, strength is always something you should work on no matter what your long-term goal is or even short-term goal. So we've talked about the importance of strength in podcast 175. It was literally titled The Importance of Strength. So, and how it's a factor of all goals. So every single goal that anybody ever wants to achieve in the gym will be improved as they get stronger. Okay, so even endurance. So strength shows if you increase your strength, you have the increased pool of ability to pull from. So pool, like Pool, the strength pool, like the strength amount you have, and then you're going to thin that out over time for endurance. Well, the more strength you have, the more you have to thin out, if that makes sense. So getting stronger is even important for endurance athletes. So I've worked with people who do like triathlons, Ironmans, and like I've worked with a lady who did 100-mile runs. So I've worked with a lot of endurance athletes, and strength was always a number one thing, right after improving their movement mechanics. So, which will be included in movement prep. So for strength work, if your stability is an issue, meaning that you can't stabilize the heaviest weights, then you have to use machines for your strength work. If stability is not a limiting factor, then you should use free weights. So an example of somebody who, if you come in and somebody can squat 405 pounds or more, they can probably just use a free weight, use a barbell as their strength thing. If somebody can't even barbell squat, then they want to use a leg press. So you want to use whatever allows you to do the heaviest things possible. What's the heaviest way you can put, like heaviest weight you can put on yourself safely? And if that's a free weight, if that's a barbell or dumbbells, great. If it's a machine, great. In no way whatsoever are those negatives. So I've trained tons of people where we had to use like a pull down or row machine and a chest press machine or overhead press machine as their main strength for upper body. Then we had to use a leg press or hack squat or belt squat for their main strengths for lower body. That's fine because it allowed us to put the most weight on them. They got the most muscle damage. They got the most kind of nervous system recruitment, which improves strength. So we used machines for their strength because their stabilizing abilities would have been limiting to their main muscles. So it would have been inappropriate to use free weights and call that strength training because they weren't actually training their strongest muscles. They were actually just kind of failing when their stabilizers would fail. So don't use free weights all the time for strength if the person isn't strong enough, or you. So I'm talking to trainers here for a second. But so if the client isn't strong enough to actually use, if their stabilizing ability is a limiting factor, then use machines always. So that goes for you or a trainer. Okay. Then you would work on free weights after that. So, for example, if somebody couldn't barbell squat heavy, that's fine. Make them do leg press, make them do a hack squat, make them do like a belt squat, make them use a machine to really beat up their legs, and then work on the movement patterns of the squat as kind of like an accessory exercise after that. Okay? You can even superset, really heavy leg presses with barbell squats, until they can improve their ability to barbell squat to where it's a greater weight load than the leg press. So the idea of strength is what's the heaviest weight load you can put on the person. Use machine or free weight, whatever the hell gets that done. Okay? Now, and that will be true of fat loss and strength. So even strength athletes, if they want to do so if you have somebody who's new to, say, powerlifting and they want to get better at squat, bench, and deadlift, sometimes using a leg press is a better way to get them stronger for squats than actual squats because they're not strong enough to squat a lot. Same thing with bench press. So we use reverse band bench pressing all the time for people who are weak on bench pressing, because if they're like 5 reps or less, so if somebody comes in, they're trying to bench 110 pounds on a bench press, that's not very heavy. Sorry to burst your bubble, but it's not very heavy across all the muscles of the upper body. So it's not a really heavy stimulus. But if you use reverse bands where it's like 110 at the chest, but 120 to 130 at the lockout, that gives them a little more weight load, a little more overload on their muscles. So how can you get heavy weight on them safely is the key. Okay? Then for bodybuilding, muscle building people, there's kind of 2 theories to how to handle your workloads. So you can exhaust the target muscle fully with free weights, as much as you can do with free weighted stuff. Barbells, dumbbells, out the wazoo. Then use machines to finish off the main muscle because the stabilizers are too fatigued to help. Okay? So if once the stabilizers are dead, you move to machines and you finish out the target muscle. So that would be theory 1. Free weights first, machines second. Theory 2 is kill the main muscle with machines, to where it saves the stabilizers and you can really just beat the shit out of the main muscle. And then you move to free weights. Now that the stabilizers are still fresh and the main muscle is really tired, the stabilizers will be able to kind of not be the limiting factor, and you can push that main muscle further into damage. Now that one has a little more risk of kind of injury to it, but it's still an appropriate theory if you use appropriate form on technique exercises. So there's kind of 2 theories with muscle building. Is free weights first, machines second. And then the other theory is machines first, free weights second. But you can do it both ways, and you could argue that they're both useful if done correctly. Okay? Then basically, for people wanting fat loss and strength, what you would finish your workout on. So you do movement prep with free weights and body weight stuff. Then you do your strength stuff with machines if your stabilizers are weak, or free weights if your stabilizers are strong. And then the rest of the workout, you do a mixture of both depending on what you need. So sometimes if somebody did barbell squats, they might do machine work after that, like leg press, and then maybe combine it with a free weight exercise like walking lunges. So it's good to use a mix of both free weights and machines because they both offer benefits. And the benefits of each one counter the negatives of each one. So I in no way would encourage someone to be exclusive one way or the other. It's unnecessary. There's no need to be exclusive. So you can include both. Should you use free weights more often? The answer is going to be probably yes, but you should use both since they both have value. Okay, cool. So if you'd like any help for programming on how to kind of mix this stuff together and make sure you're getting the right kind of combination of free weights and machines, make sure you're having the right organized format to your workout, make sure you're using the right device for the formats you're using. So all that stuff, we're happy to help. Just email us if you have any questions or concerns, or if you'd like to help. Our email is brutalironGym@gmail.com. Okay, so hopefully this helped. Hopefully it gave the person who requested it the information that they wanted. If anybody else has any other requests, always email us. So the podcast is intended to be for the listeners. So whatever you want to learn about, we want to teach. Okay? So any questions whatsoever, just shoot us an email, brutalironGym@gmail.com, and we'll make sure we address the issue. Cool. Okay, if you like the podcast, please share it with family and friends. The more people we help, the happier the world will be. Also, if you like this information, you can find more from us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Brutal Iron Gym. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions, we'd love to hear from you. The podcast is for you, so we want to know what you want to learn about. You can tell us at our email at brutalironGym@gmail.com. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening. And thank you for watching.